But we start in Lebanon, where 3 soldiers have been killed in a suicide car bomb. The attack happened at an army checkpoint in Al-Sal, that's close to the Syrian border. Well, several other soldiers were injured, and the army has now closed all roads to the checkpoint. There's been a spate of attacks in Al-Sal ever since the beginning of the year. The border town is home to thousands of Syrian refugees who've been fleeing the violence, but it's also home to Syrian rebels who are seeking refuge and crossing the border into Lebanon following a Syrian army advance in the territory over the recent weeks. So we can talk now to Rula Amin, who's live for us in Beirut. And first of all, it seems as though Al-Sal is being ever more drawn into the conflict that's taking place across the border in Syria.
Yes, definitely, and it's increasing by the day. Al-Sal, for example, as you said, its population has more than doubled in the past 3 years since the conflict in Syria started. It's not only Syrian civilians who are taking shelter in Al-Sal, but also many of the Syrian rebels and fighters. Now, in the past few weeks, the number of these refugees and rebels have increased due to these takeovers by the Syrian government forces of some of the cities, towns and villages along the border with Lebanon. And the Lebanese army has been intensifying its campaign against what it considers a threat. Al-Qaeda-linked groups based here in Lebanon, Lebanese and Syrian members, who are being accused of being behind several car bombs attacks and drive-by shootings against the Lebanese army and Shia neighborhoods. So in the past few weeks, the army has intensified its campaign against these groups, and in return, the army has become a target. In the past 2 weeks, in the past week, 2 Lebanese soldiers were killed in a drive-by shooting in the northern city of Tripoli, and today this suicide bombing that killed 3 soldiers.
Now, this group that's claiming responsibility for today's suicide bombing is called Ahrar al-Sunni of Baalbek. What do we know about them?
It's a new emerging group. In a way, it's a bit shady because in many of the cases that it had claimed responsibility for some of these attacks, we heard other claims of responsibility from groups like Al-Nusra. What we know is that Al-Qaeda-linked groups based here in Lebanon have made it clear the Lebanese army is now a target. They accuse the army of actually helping the Shia group here, Hezbollah, and the Syrian regime by going after their members. They believe that the Lebanese army's agenda is to weaken them in order to help President Bashar al-Assad control the territory that he has and go after them. And that's why they consider it a legitimate target. And that is getting very much becoming a provocation for many Lebanese whose sons are part of the army, whether they're Christians, Sunnis, or Shia.
Well, the attack of today came just hours after a speech by the Hezbollah leader, Hassan Nasrallah, in which he defended the group's intervention in the Syrian war.
Those who keep on insisting every day that the problem in Lebanon is that Hezbollah went to Syria. I say that the problem in Lebanon is that Hezbollah was late in going to Syria, and the problem in Lebanon is that you are still in your places and you didn't go to Syria, but some of you went to the wrong place.
Now, Hassan Nasrallah, since the beginning, has not been shy about protecting and about defending his group's involvement in Syria. Today, he reiterated his position and his group's position. They are not for the downfall of the Syrian regime. They think that there are legitimate demands by the people, but these demands should be met, but also through a political resolution. And he believes that there is a campaign, this storm, what he calls a storm, in order to put Syria in a different alliance that actually becomes a threat to the existence and the goals of Hezbollah. And that's why he feels it's a must and it's a duty for Hezbollah to go there and defend the regime. It's, again, it's the same lines he has been using in the past 3 years, that defending the regime in Syria is part of defending what he calls the resistance and his group's ability to continue here and to continue fighting Israel.
Rula Amin with the very latest from Lebanon.